So this is one of my favorite videos to make, in part because what I'm going to be doing here is something that is for you that no one has ever done for me, meaning no one has ever introduced me to life. And I get the honor of being able to do that for you in this series. And in the process, I'm also doing it a bit for myself. And so if we imagine kind of a useful guide of, which is a map, right? A map is not reality. This is not reality. This is a map of reality. Words are not real. They're symbols of things that are real, right? And so in many ways, we're living in a fictitious world of human consciousness resting on language. And it's an illusion because we're putting pictures together which aren't real, meaning the pictures aren't reality. They're symbols of reality, and they're generated by words which aren't reality. They're symbols of reality. So let's get started. Now, the first, and I think most important kind of big picture narrative or paradigm to understand is the cycle, right? All energy is in motion. All physical energy, all the energy that we're aware of, is in a cycle. It's in a frequency. And a frequency see if we can get this pen to work. Well, I guess the pen doesn't want to work. So close that out. Okay, so we got a working pen. And, you know, as an aside, nothing is perfect. Absolutely nothing in the reality of our form world, what we can experience physically, is perfect. It's all flawed, just like that little incident there. Nothing is perfect and nothing works perfectly. And part of that is the discrepancy between the map and the reality that we're trying to engage with through the map, right? When we look at a map, we're trying to relate to reality through the map. And no map is perfect, right? The perfect map of reality is reality. But reality is really, really, really big. And we cannot comprehend it, right? There's so much going on just in a single finger, right? With the activity of the subatomic particles in this finger in 1 minute could take more than a lifetime to articulate. You got down into every atom and every subatomic particle within the atom and tracked its movement in a way, in words. You could spend an entire lifetime studying the movement of subatomic particles for a single minute in a single finger of a single person. And by the time that you finished that, it would have moved on, 10 billion times, right? So reality is really, really big. Reality is really, really fast. And what that means is that we need a very dumbed down version of reality. We need a very dumbed down map of reality that we can keep up with, that we know what to do with. But a very dumbed down map is so crude that it isn't an elegant interface with reality. And so when we rely, when we believe our maps of reality, we are effectively relying on something that's so simple and bumpy and crude that, first of all, it can't anticipate the vast complexity of what is, and so we're always being surprised. Secondly, it doesn't connect perfectly, right? There's gaps between the crudeness of the map and the symmetry, the grace, the complexity of reality. But back to the most important kind of big picture paradigm for life. We are part of a number of cycles, right? And the ultimate cycle is the circle, right? The sphere. It's the most graceful, the most paradoxical, the most complex, one of the most common shapes in reality is the sphere. Like the Earth is a sphere, and we're moving in a circular pattern around another sphere with other spheres, right? It's pretty common. And it's common because reality is a winner, right? Now, we're in a reality. That's an actuality. But around reality, just like around you and I, there is a very large probability field, right? And so there are many probable realities that aren't here. And beyond that, there are many possible realities, and they're also not here. We're experiencing an actuality which is a very small sliver. It's a very tiny part of the possibility field that became a slightly bigger part of the probability field. And we're a pretty tiny part of the probability field. That's where we are. And for us to actually end up existing within all the possible realities, our reality has to be a winner, right? Because imagine a Big Bang that kind of was like a couch potato. You know, it got up, it was about to bang, and it's like, nah, maybe another day. I don't want to get off the couch, right? And so all those big bangs never happened. They were tiny bangs that kind of just, and then they just went back to the way they were before, right? They didn't burst out into reality. And nothing happened, right? So there's all those possibilities and probabilities. And there's other probabilities, you know, that burst out and they came out too big and they fell apart before they could, you know, develop complex relationship. But our reality is a winning reality. And what that means is that 10, 20, 30 billion years ago, right, there's debate, that something came out of nothing. Pretty miraculous thing. Nothing. Now there's something, right? Something came out of nothing. And it came out very fast. It was very, very tiny, but it exploded, right? It got bigger very, very rapidly. It got longer, right? Time was created at the same moment that space was created, and every single day the universe is older, it gets longer in time and bigger in space. And so our reality has been winning for billions of years, tens of billions of years, starting with something very tiny, and now look at it, right? 10, 20, 30 billion years later, look at it, right? All over the place, as far as the eye can see, in all directions. Our reality is winning. It's getting bigger and longer and more complex every single day. And in all of that complexity, all of the trillions upon trillions of stars and planets parts of it that used to fit into something this big. I mean, that's a winning legacy. What did you do in 10, 20 billion years? Well, I took something this big. It was very, very simple, very, very tiny, and just less than a second old. And now look at it, right? We don't even know the edge of it. We're just one tiny pattern of energy amidst all the possible and probable patterns of energy. And just one of trillions of often spherical objects floating around other spherical objects in space and in time. So life has been incredibly successful. It gave birth to time. It gave birth to space. It got more and more complex. It's still here, and it's still getting bigger, right? That's a good run. If you could invest in a stock that was this big, that was, the first second of the company, and, 30 billion years later, it was billions and billions and billions of times bigger and longer and still going strong, right? Because as far as we know, life's still going to be around in another trillion years. And that's impressive. A trillion years from now, what's life going to be up to on this planet, on other planets? And we already know that, within our little sector of the universe, there are more than 1 billion planets that are likely to be conducive to some form of life that we could relate to. 1 billion, right? And so if you're humble, meaning if you say, well, okay, there's a 50-50 odds that some of those are going to have some form of life, because we don't know, right? So let's start off humble, right? 50-50, right? And if some of them do, then there's maybe a 50% chance that they will be more developed than we are, and a 50% chance it will be less. Well, let's just say out of 1 billion, there are 1 million planets capable of producing some form of life. And out of those, maybe 500,000, if we want to be really conservative, maybe 1,000 of them have developed in complex ways that have superior elements. They're not going to be the same, because life likes diversity. No two human beings are alike and have ever been exactly alike, because life likes diversity. You get maximum synergy. Life gets more and more complex every year, and one of the ways that life does that is by mutation and experimentation. And we are one of life's mutations, right? We could have stayed an amoeba, but we mutated, we changed. And we could have stayed a crocodile, and we mutated and we changed, right? So we are on the end of a very long wave of change and mutation. And life's just getting started, right? Life is growing and doing what it does very, very well, which is get bigger, get longer, get more complex, and get more intelligent. That's what life's about. That's what life has been doing. And life just may carry on doing that for 1 trillion years, 10 trillion years, 1 trillion years. And we are in a very, 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 very tiny bit of that time frame. Right? Now, this planet, of course, may do all kinds of things and, transform, bust up, in the next billion years. But life itself, for trillions of years in the future, is likely to take whatever energy is transformed, is busted up, and redo bits of it. And we're very likely in the next 1,000 years to start seeding parts of life on other planets, on other stars, right? We're in a number of exponential curves right now around computing, around technology, around rocketry, that makes it likely, if those curves are not interrupted, makes it likely that within the next 1,000 years, that we're going to have self-sustaining pockets of life out there. Now, back to the cycle, back to the circle. We are a synergy of millions upon millions of cycles, millions upon millions of circles, protons and electrons, cycles and circles. The breath, cycle and a circle. We are in a complex relationship with every other thing in existence, directly and indirectly. But in the case of the breath, we give food for trees with our exhale. And we take in food for our bodies with each inhale that is created by trees. So there's a synergistic cycle or circle with plants, with trees, that's around breath. There's another cycle and synergy around food, right? We bring in food for us, and we evacuate food for plants. We bring in food for us from plants, and we evacuate food for plant from us. So we're in that cycle. So we're in a breathing synergy with trees and plants, and we're in an eating synergy, right? Our food for the plants, they eat, and then they feed us. So there's a relay, a synergistic relay of energy. Now, life is the sustainable convergence of these circles, of these cycles, right? Meaning if you try and exhale and are successful at exhaling and not inhaling, you break the cycle. You destroy the pattern that is your life. Breathe out. You start to die. You have to breathe in to complete the circle. Breathe out. You breathe in. You breathe out. You breathe in. And that is a fundamental cycle. It is a fundamental circle of life. To interrupt the circle, the cycle, is to die. Now, this brings up an opportunity to understand right and wrong from a technical perspective, right? So, everyone can have their viewpoint, but life has been getting bigger, longer, more complex, and more intelligent, regardless of anyone's viewpoint, for billions of years, and seems poised to continue, regardless of anyone's opinion, for the next trillion years. Bigger, longer, more complex, more intelligent. Now, intelligence, particularly human intelligence, is measured by the efficiency with which time, money, and natural resources, energy, is transformed into sustainable well-being. That's intelligence. Time, money, natural resources, energy, into sustainable well-being. The efficiency with which we convert energy into sustainable well-being is a measure of our intelligence. So it's obviously more intelligent if you've exhaled to inhale. But if you're really dumb and you keep trying to exhale, you die, right? And this is part of life's program of winning, right? The dumb experiments die out. And what's left are the most intelligent, the winning experiences, right? Experiments. And at the moment, that's us. But life has a very big time horizon, and 99% of all life forms that have ever been created on this planet are now extinct. They're now dead. They've either been consumed by more intelligent and more complex patterns, or they've evolved, they've mutated, iterated into more intelligent and complex, patterns, right? So we have evolved, mutated out of less intelligent and less complex patterns into us, and we are consuming less complex patterns, less intelligent patterns to sustain us. And we will be consumed, or we will mutate into something more intelligent, more complex, because that's life's design. Life's design is every year, I want to get bigger, I want to get longer, I want to get more complex, and I want to get more intelligent. And you see, life has a winning hand because life has all the decks. Life has all the cards. Life has all the die. You see, when you've got 10 billion die, or dice, and you throw them out, 10 billion, you're gonna get a 7. 2 and 5 here, 1 and 6 there, 3 and 4 there. You're gonna get a 7. It's absolutely guaranteed. Life is going to win. Life is winning. Life has been winning for tens of billions of years. Now, that means life has a great recipe. It's got a good protocol. And its recipe is largely, about diversity. Life loves diversity because it's guaranteed to win, right? And everything doesn't have to win. Just enough. 1%, 2% of life is all that is required to win, for life to keep getting bigger, longer, more complex, more intelligent. That's all life needs. 1 or 2% of the energy patterns it creates in its abundance. Let's see what happens when we do this, and combine this energy with this energy, and combine this energy with this energy. Let's see what happens. You see, and when you do trillions upon trillions of experiments, there's always going to be a few that work. Whether by chance, whether by design, whether by luck, whether by fate, it doesn't matter. There's going to be some, a minority, that win, that take life from the level of complexity and grace that it is right now and takes it to another level, a higher level of complexity and intelligence. Right? And it's the nature of life. It's the nature of energy in form to want to perpetuate itself. And so as long as life keeps creating something that is more intelligent, more complex, more efficient at converting energy into sustainable well-being than it was before, then that guarantees the continuity of life, because that will consume simpler, less intelligent, less rudimentary forms of life. It will consume it and replicate itself, right? If you've got a carrot and you've got a human being, the carrot is not going to consume the human being and bring life back to the Stone Age. The human being is going to consume the carrot and continue to evolve, and life is going to win through that evolution. Life is winning through that evolution because human beings are more sophisticated than a carrot. And so life becomes more sophisticated. The protocol that the most intelligent and the most complex energy forms consume less intelligent, less complex energy means that life is part of a cycle and a circle, getting bigger, longer, more complex, more intelligent. You see, and life does not have a deadline. People might say, well, it's highly unlikely that human beings have evolved on this planet in only 15, 20 billion years. Highly unlikely. The complexity of DNA, the randomness, it's highly unlikely, right? Well, here we are. But also, life's got time. It's highly unlikely, perhaps, in a 15 billion year period. But what about 1 trillion years? What about 1 trillion years? There's no end to the universe in sight. There's nothing that we know of that says, oh gosh, life's running out of time. It's got to hurry. It's got no time to create this, to create that, right? Life is abundant. Life has a protocol that creates more and more life every single instant it has been in existence for tens of billions of years with no end in sight. Right? Sounds like life has a pretty good chance of exploring all the things that life wants to explore. More intelligent, more complex, more synergies. The possibility field is getting bigger and bigger every single instant of life's existence, which means the probability field is getting bigger, which means the actual field is getting bigger. Life is getting bigger. The possibilities are getting bigger every single day that life is in existence. Now, our personal possibility fields could get smaller or bigger depending on our choices. You see, but life is not relying on one human being, on one planet, on one species. Life's playing a very big game. And so you can lose, and you can lose, and you can lose, and you can lose. 99% of life can lose, and life can still win, because life's a part of all of it, right? Life doesn't have an ego that says that's not me and that's me. It's all life, right? And as long as 1% of 1% of 1% of life becomes more intelligent, more efficient at converting energy, time, money, natural resources in our case, into sustainable well-being, we're going to do it because life wants to exist. Life wants to perpetuate itself, and that's what works. That's what feels good. That's success. Get better and better at existing with more and more grace. So that process is the most important thing to understand. And you and I exist in a cycle, in a circle of breath, a circle of exchange. We go to work, we make money, we spend money. We make money, we spend money. We breathe in, we breathe out. We sleep, we wake. We're born, we die. We go forward, we go backwards. We go to the right to take a step. And the very next thing we do is we lean to the left. And that's called forward movement. We go to the right and to the left, and to the right and to the left. That's how we go forward. It's a cycle. It's a circle. Now here's where it gets interesting, right? What's right? What's wrong? What's the right choice? What's the right thought? What's the right thing to do here? What's right and what's wrong? Well, in order to answer that question, we need to first of all, become conscious of the cycles and the circles we're in. We need to become conscious that we're part of a breath cycle, right? And so if we're breathing out and we're at the end of the breath, the right thing is to breathe in. And if we breathe in, we're holding our breath, the right thing is to go out, right? If we're spending more money than we're making, the right thing is to make more money or spend less. If we're making a lot more than we're spending, the right thing is to spend more. Now, obviously, in the complexity of that, you can spend more in an investment portfolio. You can spend more on your future and your education. We're not just talking about hedonic pleasure. But when we understand that life is a nested hierarchy of cycles and circles, our job is to find ourselves on the cycles that we are a part of and participate, right? Because that's the chance that we have as one of the most complex patterns of life on the planet today. We have this thing called an ego, an I, that identifies, that attaches itself to a series of patterns. The I identifies with our pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. And our ego, our I, wants to exist, wants to continue, wants to be stable. I think this, I feel this, I say this, I do this, I am this way. And then it repeats. I think, I feel, I speak, I do, and then it repeats, right? It starts with a thought, right? I had this thought, so I said this thing based on that thought. So I did this thing based on that thought, and I felt this thing. Every thought creates a feeling. Every thought is integrally linked with language. You cannot think a thought without words, right? So I thought, I felt, I acted, I spoke, and now I am like this. Now I find myself in this place, the synergy of all of that, right? If I thought, let's crash the car into a tree, and then I felt the rush of adrenaline and crash the car into the tree, and then I'm like, then the byproduct is probably shock and broken car, etc. So that then the I am, I think, I feel, I speak, I do, I be, right? The state of being is different following that thought versus the thought, let's go home and have a nice, a nice sleep, right? That leads to another feeling, another set of words. Those are another set of words, another set of actions, and another state of being. So the I, the ego, is simply that which attaches itself to that pattern. I am this. That's my thought, says the ego. It's just a thought that the ego has attached to. It's my feeling. It's just an energy pattern, a feeling, that is produced by that thought, and the ego says, that's mine, right? So the ego is, that's mine, that's me, that's not me, that's me, that's me. That's basically the cycle of the ego, right? That's me, that's not me. That's me, that's not me. That's me, that's not. So that's the ego's dynamic, to identify the patterns it attaches to and the patterns it rejects and doesn't attach to. It dissociates. So I associate with this group, with this pattern, with these words. I dissociate from these things. So that's what the ego does. And your job as an ego, as an I that is going to attach to thing, is to identify, to attach to thoughts that are going to produce feelings and words and actions and states of being that are more intelligent. That's putting you in alignment with life's trillion-year program, that are more intelligent than your other alternatives, right? So if every day you attach to thoughts that convert energy into sustainable well-being more efficiently than the last thoughts, you're part of life's winning program. And if every day you attach to dumber thoughts, those are thoughts that lead to behavior that produce less sustainable well-being and more chronic and unnecessary suffering. If every day you attach to more unintelligent thoughts, then your well-being starts to suffer because it takes more and more energy to convert, more and more time and energy to convert energy into sustainable well-being. And you create higher and higher levels of chronic and unnecessary suffering. And you go down, right? You become weak in that state. You become vulnerable. You can easily be consumed by more intelligent energy forms, right? If you're dumb and myopic, it's easier for someone to steal your money, for example. If you're not paying attention, it's easier for someone to drive into you or you to step out into traffic, right? Because your pattern, as you get weak, as your pattern begins to fall apart, you're closer and closer to death, right? And the energy that is you, your body returns to the natural ecology, your money gets distributed to other places, your things, the home. I mean, you don't stay in your home as a dead person. And that goes to the winners, right? Those more aligned with life, that are converting energy into sustainable well-being more efficiently, right? And that's being part of life. So a big part of that, the right way, what's the right thing to do here, is to understand the cycles you're in. For example, the work cycle, I'm in a work cycle. I go to work, I come home, I go to work, I come home, I go to work, I come home. I make money, I spend money, I make money, I spend money, I make money, I spend money. I breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, without. I eat food, I evacuate that food, I eat food, I evacuate that food. I drink water, I evacuate that water, I drink water, I evacuate that water. So I call my friend, they call me, I call my friend, they call me. I loan money, the money is repaid. I borrow money, I pay the money back. These are cycles, right? Now, if the cycle fails, that's called death, right? Those cycles stop existing, right? If we cut, we have a cycle with clean air and, millions and millions of trees out there and producing clean air, and then we're fertilizing those trees with the energy from our body, both breath and food and liquid. We're fertilizing those trees. If we fail to meet the contract, right? If we don't pay back the debt, we go bankrupt, right? If we don't plant as many trees as we take down, we go bankrupt. If we don't put any effort into our relationship, we go bankrupt. If we don't take the next breath, we die. It's another form of bankruptcy, right? If we don't respond to our friends, the relationship goes bankrupt, right? If we hold all the liquid in and refuse to vacate the liquid, we go bankrupt, right? So we're in a series of relays of energy. And the only energy that lasts, the only relays of energy that last, are sustainable elliptics. We feed them, they feed us. We feed them, they feed us, right? So the first thing to understand is that biologically, that's right? The reason life exists, the reason there wasn't just a tiny bang and then nothing, right? Because that could have happened. Scientists can't explain why this Big Bang worked. They know it does. It's been succeeding for all this time, but why didn't it just poof and then, that's enough, and then just stay simple amoeba for all time, right? The size of a pea. Just that's big enough for me. I'm satisfied. Why did life continue on, right? Well, the important thing is to understand that we're part of that probability field and actuality field of a life that is winning, that did continue on, that is continuing on indefinitely, that's got trillions of planets in the wings. If, for whatever reason, we don't decide to continue on, that's all right. It's only been 20 or 30 billion years. Life's got time, an endless amount. So there'll be another version. There'll be another story, right? Now, the job of our ego is to understand the games that we're in and to participate with winning, right? Life is going to win no matter what. That's guaranteed. But are we going to participate in speeding up life's winning by winning ourselves, by becoming conscious partners with life? Or are we going to use our identity, our pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being to slow life down, to stop life, to destroy ourselves and many other millions of life forms? And within the possibility field, we can do either, right? It is possible for human beings to set off nuclear weapons, every single nuclear weapon on the planet. We could all collaborate tomorrow, right? Let's all get our nuclear weapon and we'll blow it up at the same time and we'll set life back, 200 million years? Could we set life back 200 million years, a millisecond in life's game, and destroy every human being on the planet? Could we do it? Right? Theoretically, if we wanted to, it's just there's too many human beings aligned with life to willingly cooperate with such a grand scheme, right? Because we're part of life. We've got the code that says win, do your best, get better, become more intelligent, become more efficient, grow, do your best, get better. That's in every cell of our body. That's life's code. Right? So it's not our nature to destroy ourselves. It's not our nature to destroy the planet. Life's nature is, let's see how big we can get. Let's see how much we can create. Let's create more and more and more. Let's experiment here. Life is all about diversity. So the right way is life's way. It's the way that brought us here, to the point of freedom where we can evaluate what's right and what's wrong. If you've just breathed out, breathe in. If you've just made a bunch of money, invest it. If you've given a lot of energy, receive. If you've lost a lot of water, drink. If you're hungry, eat. If you're full, vacate and give that fertilizer back to the ecology that nourished you. If you're breathing in, breathe out. If you've received an abundance of gifts, give back. Right? Where are you on in life trajectory? If you've learned things and been taught, then teach. Right? If you're teaching, learn. Right? If your ritual is to, go to the classroom and teach kids, then come home and study and learn. And ask for the energy to come back, right? In other words, understand the cycles that you are in, understand the point in the cycle that you're in, and move towards symmetry, move towards balance, move towards grace, because that's more intelligent. The point of grace is in the middle of that cycle, of that balance. And that's the right thing to think, the right thing to feel, the right thing to do. And it creates the right way to be. Right? If you're consuming energy from the ecology and not giving anything back, you've cut down 1,000 trees in the course of driving on your roads, building your house, using paper, using toilet paper, you've cut down 1,000 trees. The right thing is to plant 1,000 trees. You've borrowed some money. The right thing is to pay it back. You've made some money. The right thing is to invest it in something good, beautiful, and true, and to learn in the process, right? So that's right and that's wrong. Now, it's important to understand that while reality is spherical, while reality is a beautiful, graceful, and infinite cycle, and what do I mean by that? Well, if you take the circle here, it is an infinite number of dots. Like if we zoom into this circle and make this circle as big as the universe, and then we build the circle out of dots, it's an infinite number of dots that create the synergy that is the one, the circle. If you use lines to create the circle, which is common computer generation thing is, planes and lines. If you use lines, it's an infinite number of lines. It's an infinite number of dots and lines to create the circle. The trouble is, we are not that conscious. It's, 250 million dots is too much for us to realistically hold in our brains. And so what we do as we interact with cycles and circles is we dumb the infinite down into something manageable. I work, come home, I play, I work, I come home, I play. We create an illusionary rendition, a dumbed down version of the cycle. So this would be, a 3-point system. And that's what a system is. A system is a map, a mind map, because every system, if you realize that you can't even in real time keep up with the subatomics of a single fingernail. Even 3 atoms are moving so fast at a subatomic level that we can't think the words fast enough to keep up with them. So we have to detach and use abstracts. An abstract is they are moving really fast. But even before you said the word they have moved faster than you can say they are really fast, right? And that's why you use an abstract to buffer the scale between them. And reality is vastly more complex than we are capable of understanding. And that's why we have to create a system, which is a map of words and distinctions. We take the infinite depth and breadth of reality and we divide it into a grid that we are able to grasp with words. And then we use that grid to create a cycle, a dumbed down cycle, that is our system for navigating the system. It's our mental way of steering ourselves around our version of reality. But the map isn't real. We think it is. It's all that we know, and so we believe our map of reality. But it's just words. And the words are like giant, crude pixels in the screen of life. Life has 10 trillion dots inside every one of the distinctions we use words to create. So here's where I'm getting at. This is life, the infinite breath, the infinite cycle. This is your dumbed down version of a cycle through life. I go to work, come home, I play. Whatever the system is, right? That would be a 3-point system. Now, as you can see, a 3-point system has a fair amount of friction. Imagine trying to drive a car with triangular wheels. It would be hellishly violent, and most of our lives are hellishly violent. We bang into this, we didn't see happening, we didn't see that, because our map is so crude relative to the complexity and grace of what is, we couldn't possibly anticipate all of that, right? There's just so many things going on in so many breaths and so many cycles. And some of the cycles of reality are 10 billion years long. Other cycles of reality are 10,000 years long. Other cycles last 60 million years, like the dinosaur extinction, the asteroid relationship, between Earth and the asteroid belts and stuff. So what we pay attention to are the cycles that we've noticed in our lifespan. This happens, it's day and then it's night, it's day, but those are very quick cycles. There are 500-year cycles. There are 3 weeks and 3-day cycles. There are 2 trillion year cycles. And our universe hasn't been around enough to experience what those are. But after a trillion years, a 2 trillion year cycle would become pretty obvious. If you could view it from enough distance to see what's going on in the universe every 2 trillion years as distinct from every 1 trillion years. We're in a series of cycles. We've created a model that is our best effort to create well-being. But as you can look at this model, you can see this would be a pretty easy bit here. But what about this really tight turn here? Imagine you were driving around this model of reality. You took this lovely sphere, right? That's an easy drive. You just go round, it's nice, gentle curves, no sharp edges. Lovely, lovely, lovely drive, right? Make it about 5 miles wide. Oh, it's just a gentle ride, beautiful, graceful, right? But how do you describe that? How do you become conscious of trillions and trillions of points that are all forming this circle? It's too much. So you invent a system. And 3 points, pretty easy to keep in mind, somewhat difficult to drive. The easy bit here, but this is quite a hairpin turn. So you got to slow down at these turn points, and then you got a nice easy point here. You got to slow down. Nice easy bit here. So the points when you're likely to crash your system, the points that are likely to feel horrible, like you've just eaten a big meal and you come into this hairpin turn and run into something, that's when you're going to lose your food, right? Because it's the weak point of the system, right? Really easy for parts of it, but it creates it really hard in transition points. When I leave the office and start to head into traffic, there's no more adrenaline and stuff. It's tough. That's a tough point of my system. Then, once I get home and I do this and this and this, that's an easy part, but then getting to sleep, that's a tough part. Or waking up, that's tough. But once I get up, once I do this, once I get in the shower, then I can flow again, right? Then I'm in the grace point of my system, right? So human systems based on human thought, on the foundation of language. You cannot think a thought without words. And the words are just cutting reality up into crude bits. Human systems tend to be bumpy, they tend to be messy, they tend to be inefficient because they're simple. Life is complex. When you try and interact very simply with something complex, you often get a mess, right? Try navigating your computer with just 3 letters in the keyboard. I only want to think of 3 letters. Oh, that's good for you, right? But there's so many things that the computer can't do unless you have the full keyboard and know what you're doing and get it right. So this is you're going to be your life. Smooth sailing parts and then crash, and gosh, I thought this smooth thing was going to go forever. But no, you ran out of a breath. You spent all that money. Now you got to stop dead in the water, and now you got to make money. You keep trying to spend money without making it, it's going to get harder and harder and harder, right? Until you get it, right? Until you come back to the cycle, the breath. So you're going to come to your dead end, shock, whatever. Now you're going to make money. And maybe you think you can just make money forever and just going to do this, and that's what it's all about. Then you hit a dead end, right? 10-hour work days, doing all this stuff, it hits a dead end at some point. I'm going to make money so I can make money so I can make money so I can make more money so I can make more money. You're going to hit a dead end. And that's when, care for my body, play, do this, tend to my relationships, whatever. And so you're going to go through these points. And whether you do it on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly, on a 10-year basis, you're going to go through this cycle. There's going to be smooth patches and hard patches. And the simpler your system is, the cruder your model of reality is, the more you're going to bang into it. So if you have a very divisive and narrow version of reality, there's the good people and the bad people, and my job is to be a good people and fight the bad people, right? So this is a polarizing paradigm, and you will spend tremendous amount of energy fighting the bad parts in you and the bad parts in other people, being fought in return, being exhausted, etc., finding you've fallen into the bad camp, now you have to get back to the good. That's a polarizing pattern of reality that's purely dualistic. There's everything, half of the world is good and half of it is bad. My job is to be the good and to fight the bad, right? Now you've got a continual civil war inside and out because you've got the simplest possible system. You've cut the one into two. It's called the descent out of the garden into the gnosis, the knowledge of good and evil, two polarities. And then you have naturally the war between the good and the bad. That's the toughest paradigm, the toughest system to work with. Then you go to a triangle. Then you go to something four-sided. You go to something five-sided, right? And the more complex your system gets, the more efficient it gets, more intelligent it gets, the less bumpy it gets. And, by the time you've got a bicycle wheel with maybe, 48 spokes around it, and they're all evenly spaced, you just have to understand what your cycle is, and you go round, you go round, you go round, right? And we use circular wheels because they're the most efficient. So the right way forward is to complete the breath that you're in and take the next breath. Go out and go in. Give and receive. Open and close. Up and down. Right? In and out. That's the right way. And if you think it right, you feel it right, you say it right, you do it right, you will create a right way of being. You will create a reality that requires less and less energy, less and less time, money, and natural resources to create more and more sustainable well-being. In other words, you will create an intelligent reality with higher levels of grace, right? That's what grace is. Effortless abundance. That's what life is. Life is not efforting. Life is exploring, creating, whatever, and life accepts all of it. If you win, life accepts you. If you die, life accepts you. And your energy, if and when you die, will get reused by life. And reused by life as all energy gets recycled, recircled on the endless journey of expansion, of complexity, of intelligence, which is moving towards the ideal, beauty, truth, and goodness. What feels right, beauty, truth, and goodness, the ideal, the circle, the sphere. It's beautiful, it's true, it's good. The sphere is the ultimate symbol for the cycle. The cycle is the foundation of life. Life is a winning protocol. Our universe is a winning universe. And as egos, as eyes that identify to thoughts, to feelings, to words, to actions, and to states of being, our ego can accelerate life's journey towards grace, towards success, towards conscious, sustainable fun, because it's more fun to have fun than it is to fail. Because it's more successful to have fun than it is to be miserable. It's all heading there. Beauty, truth, and goodness. It's more fun to be part of beauty than to be separate. It's more fun to be true, to drive on a car with wheels that are true. They're perfectly aligned. To drive in a road that is paved true, that is paved good, that's paved beautifully, is more fun. It's more elegant. It's more intelligent. It's more complex. It's more beautiful, true, and good than to drive with crooked tires, with triangular wheels, with motors that don't work, a car body that's falling to pieces, with a hand that doesn't steer where you want it to go. It's more fun to be beautiful. It's more successful to be beautiful. Goodness is beautiful. Truth is beautiful. Beauty is true. Beauty is symmetry. Symmetry is more true. Than the discord. And so the reality that we're a part of accelerates, becomes more graceful.